Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I appreciate you joining us for the next webinar in our Back to School Meal Service series. We hope that it's been helpful to those of you who have been joining so far, and I'm really excited to feature two additional districts today to learn more about their meal service plans. Admittedly, I always forget to introduce myself at the start of a webinar. My name is Kelly McDonough, and I am on our Center for Best Practices team at No Kid Hungry. I will be leading us through today's webinar, but what I'm really happy to do is introduce you all shortly to our guest speakers who are really going to be the highlight of today and are going to be sharing some really important and interesting information with you all. But to begin with, just a quick overview of our agenda. I will go through our usual webinar housekeeping items. I will briefly highlight some of the resources that No Kid Hungry has available for you. I will introduce my colleague who's going to highlight what we know at this point about current waivers and waiver extensions. And then we'll hear from our guest speakers about their meal service plans in their districts. And lastly, we'll wrap up with an opportunity for audience Q&A. As for those housekeeping items, if you encounter any technical difficulties during the webinar, please use the chat box to get help. I'm very fortunate to have my teammate Chelsea behind the scenes. And if you have any challenges with the audio, the visuals, anything like that, please use that chat box to communicate with her behind the scenes to get some help. We will be sharing both a recording of the webinar as well as the slide deck with you. That will be emailed out usually tomorrow. We should be able to get that out then. And lastly, if you have any questions for the speakers, and we really do encourage you to ask questions, we want this to be engaging and informative, please enter those into the Q&A box. We encourage you to use the Q&A box versus the chat box, because that ensures that all attendees can also see those questions coming in. And it also allows us to have essentially a transcript of the questions, which helps us then in turn follow up and make sure you have all of that information that you need. So moving on from there, I just wanted to briefly highlight some of the resources that we have available. Again, if you've joined our webinars before, hopefully you are familiar with these. But these are a handful of the many resources that we have available right now. These resources and others can be found on a specially created back to school meal service page on our website. So the link to that full page is at the bottom of this slide, and links to the individual resources are here in the chart. Our team is working as fast as we possibly can to continue creating resources as we're hearing about your questions, your challenges, your needs, and of course, keeping up with the changes coming from USDA. So if you have ideas, needs, we welcome you to share those with us as well. But please check these out if you haven't already. We hope they're helpful to you as you continue to work to make sure kids are fed during this super atypical school year. With that being said, one more reminder is that if you still have questions after this webinar, know that you're likely not the only one. Not to use that really popular, unpopular word these days, but unprecedented. This situation is unprecedented. None of us have been through this before. So we are here to support one another. No Kid Hungry is here to support you. So if you still have questions, you still have needs, we welcome you to either email our team. Our email address is on this slide. I also encourage you to subscribe to our newsletter if you do not already receive it. That will ensure that you get our bi-monthly newsletter. You'll also get announcements about upcoming webinars. You'll also get alerts when there are new updates. And lastly, you can check out our upcoming and recorded webinars. All of our webinars are both announced on our website, and also there's where you can find the recordings and slide decks from any past webinars that you may have missed. Lastly, we always recommend that you keep your state agency informed about your needs and challenges. They are working diligently on your behalf. So please be in communication with them. If you have state-specific questions, you have needs, we really recommend that you reach out to them. And now it is my pleasure to turn it over to my colleague, Carolyn. And Carolyn is going to walk us through what we know at this point about current waivers and waiver extensions.
Great, thank you, Kelly. So during the last back to school webinar, we were basically just working from the press release that the USDA had just put out about the waiver extension. So at least now we have the actual waiver documents. And I have the whole list there. It's quite lengthy. It's basically all of the summer SFSP and SSO waivers that had been previously set to expire by the end of September. You probably forgot that there were even this many out there. But the most critical one is a new waiver with the option to utilize the summer food service program and the seamless summer option through December of 2020, regardless of school calendar. So that's not a requirement. It is an option for schools. They have the option for either SFSP or SSO or to stay with the school programs. And for community organizations, it's the option to use SFSP. But in order to really effectively use those, we have all those other waivers that support that option. So the non-congregate waiver, the parent or guardian meal pickup waiver, the meal service time flexibility, all of those allow for that kind of grab and go distribution, for home delivery, for bulk distribution, etc. We also have the extension of state area eligibility waivers. So this is what we had previously that allowed organizations to set up meal distribution sites outside of areas that would typically qualify with that 50% free or reduced price eligible threshold. States have all implemented that a bit differently, so that is an important one to work with your state agency on what that area eligibility waiver means for you. In addition to that, there's an extension of the waiver to allow area eligibility for closed enrolled sites. Typically, closed enrolled sites have to do individual applications, but this allows them to do area eligibility if they are area eligible. With the area eligibility waiver, hopefully that wouldn't be necessary even, but at least that option is available if needed. There's also a waiver of the requirement to do a first week site visit. There's also the option for nonprofit SFSP sponsors to be able to utilize offer versus serve, which isn't normally an option for nonprofit sponsors. And then there's also the meal pattern waiver. So a lengthy list, but basically it continues the waivers that had been in effect previously through December of 2020. There's obviously still a lot of questions about what all this really means. What are the technicalities of how you transition to the summer meals programs if you had already started the school year and had started using school lunch and school breakfast, or how can you continue? So if you go to the next slide, you can see at least you can start off by reviewing our waiver summary chart, because again, it's a lot of waivers. We know, again, there's still a lot of clarification that's needed, but you can hear directly from USDA tomorrow. FRAC is doing a webinar, Serving Meals This Fall, USDA waiver update. So the link there will take you to the registration. I can also drop that in the chat. We'll certainly be listening to see what they say. And then, as I noted, just work with your state agency. We know everyone's kind of setting up a different process for what it looks like to make this transition and how quickly you can do it and what kind of online application or paperwork you might need to do in advance. But certainly check in with your state agency before you just make the jump and start serving through the summer programs. And we are continuing to push for a full school year extension of the option for summer meals. I don't envision a world where January suddenly looks sunny and normal for everyone. So we really do think that's a critical thing to continue. But at least we have this option for now. So I can answer some questions now, and I can chat responses if people type them in as we go. So I don't know if we've gotten any so far.
Sure, yes. Carolyn, I have a question for you, but just to reiterate what Carolyn said, if you have any particular questions related to the waivers, please go ahead and add them in now. We're going to have Carolyn stick with us to answer some of these questions. but you are welcome to put them in throughout the webinar. So there's one question and it asks, does a school have to be open in person to serve SFSP SSO currently?
So I don't think so, because SFSP or SSO would continue to be an option even for schools that hadn't started back. So like before these extensions, the waivers were still in effect through the end of September. So if the school hadn't started until late September, they could continue with the summer meals programs until then. So I think for schools that haven't reopened yet, they can use SFSP SSO. For a school that has reopened in person, I think they have the option to use SFSP or SSO. If a school is all virtual, I think they have the option. So I don't think the school calendar or operating status is a key factor in this one. I think the main factor is just working with your state agency to figure out what kind of paperwork or notification do you need to have. So, yeah.
You, Carolyn, perfect. So you gave us a very well-rounded answer, which is great because our question asker clarified the question and really was asking in general about a school's openness status. So thank you for answering it from all of those perspectives. That is our only question that's come in so far about the waivers. Again, we encourage you all, if you have questions, please submit them into the Q&A box. Carolyn is going to stay with us through the webinar. So if other questions come to mind, please ask. But for now, we are going to move on from the waivers. And it is my pleasure to introduce our first guest speaker today. We are going to hear from Gay Anderson, who is the nutrition director with Brandon Valley School District in South Dakota. And we're going to hear about their plans for meal service during the school year. So Gay, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you so much for having me today. And I'm just going to start out with, this is the homepage of our website. And we focus so much on that COVID-19 website. That's our key communication piece to our families where we keep directing them to it. And I just thought it'd be kind of a neat way to start this out. But what I really want to talk about, if we could go to the next slide here. Do any of you remember 6 months ago what it was like before COVID? Where the date is going to be 6 months in the next few days here, because it was March 13th when we were announced in South Dakota. I remember serving meals to kids that we had salad bars, we had multiple choices, all those different things. We didn't have to serve everything to all of our kids. They were able to actually touch their milk and pick up the food off their salad bars. Who knew the term social distancing on a daily basis? And we use this constantly now. And again, what is PPE? For us, all of it was really unknown. So think back to the good old days, and we're going to start advancing forward to where we are about 6 months later. And here we are, and with my school district, we're 7 full service kitchens in Brandon, South Dakota. And with that, it means a lot of extra staff being full service kitchens. But the other piece is our district spent hours upon hours, like many of you, over the summer planning, how are we going to bring our kids back to school safely? And we have our elementary schools broken down into a K through 4 segment. Then we have an intermediate school, 5-6, middle school is 7-8, and then our high school. And it was determined in order to keep our elementary kiddos the safest that we would be taking the meals to the classroom. And it's like, okay, what do we do? We've got our serving lines, I've got my people, and how can you quickly turn around and get some new things, some new equipment that you could roll down easily into the hallways. And my amazing staff said, no, we can do this. So you can see a full serving line sitting down in the middle of a hallway of an elementary building. They move it twice during the period of time that they're doing meal service. The kids come through one class at a time. And actually, if you see there's a yellow tape in front, they kind of try and have them stand back far enough. We actually put every single thing on their tray and are able to look at where, we still have a few choices for them right now at this point in time. So they can choose between a cold lunch or a hot meal, and then their fruits and veggies that we do offer and their choice of milk. You can see my staff are all wearing masks, and it was just a big change. They got a major workout those first 2 weeks. We're in our third week of school right now, but they've been truly amazing and dedicated to saying, nope, we still have to feed our kids. And along with that, one of the big concerns there, why are you feeding these kids in the classrooms? And as we sat and talked about all the different variables about why we wanted to do this, it came out to be very important that how can we keep any of our school buildings from being shut down if we have a major outbreak? And we literally are keeping each classroom segregated by their own classroom. When they go outside on the playground, they are in their own playground recess area. They rotate recess pods. And so by not crossing them over with any other classes, if we have a major outbreak in one classroom, we'd maybe only have to shut down part of that classroom or the whole classroom, but not shut down our whole school building. And so that was a very key factor in why we went to this route. You can see we have a hot food cart brought down. We bring the whole serving line to the kids. And so it is quite the setup, I think, in being able to do that and being able to take care of them that different way. We encountered some major expenses with this. I made the decision early on that we needed to go with disposable trays and disposable silverware for multiple reasons. And so instead of washing our trays that we typically do and using our dish machines, we have gone disposable with an eco-friendly kind of tray. That was a big factor for us in that decision also, but it was also going to be that if in the course of this year, if we're doing it all year long, it's going to take us, cost us about $80,000 extra in just disposables like that. The other thing was, how do we work with our teachers? Will they work with us on spacing students? And the first couple days were a little nerve-wracking because I sat through all these safety meetings, and we dream up all these wonderful scenarios, but then you have reality hit. And the spacing of the students isn't so much a concern right now because these are the kiddos in the same class. But when we bring the next class out, they are again completely segregated from the others. So that's what the serving line looks like a little bit today. And I'm kind of focusing a little bit more on the elementary side there. Eating in the classrooms, the other thing that we did, all of our students, we're a district with about 4,700 students this year. And every student ended up with a clear C-shaped divider made out of plexiglass. So they sit in their little cubicle on their desk and have that around them as they sit and learn for the day and eat for the day. If you look at the next slide that we have coming up here, we have, we're still serving our students one healthy meal at a time. Now this is a sweet photo, and it's kind of bittersweet for me also because I happen to office out of an elementary building, and this little guy's mom happens to be the building principal, and it's his first day at school, and it's his first school lunch, and he was first in the school line. So I ended up just taking that picture and happened to have it. But he, getting used, learning the new ropes, this little kindergartner, and getting his tray served to him. And they literally don't have to walk very far to their classrooms because we staged it based on age also. In that kindergarten wing, they're very close. They don't have to walk a long way. If you can see though in the picture, it's not really clear for you, but we also have protective plexiglass around the point of sale system. We used to have biometrics that we used in our school district for POS, and had to get rid of that immediately this summer. So we went to barcoding, and all the kids have a little badge in the elementary buildings. It's really sweet. They have it where they grab, it's off of a tag at the door. So when they come out for lunch or breakfast, they bring that and then they scan it and they leave it on the cart, and it's sorted by classroom again. So we don't have to touch it. And the person watching the kids picks up those cards and cleans them for us and all that. Along with that, it takes how we kind of divide out my staff. There's about 3 to 4 on each serving line, depending on how when they're moving equipment and how they're serving things. But I think the most important piece is we still have found out a way to feed our kids healthy meals. We're going to continue to do that. Yes, we've had some hiccups with it. How do we keep some of that food hot and how do we keep some of it cold? And we're learning and we're working through that process. But it's very important. And I think it is kind of cute to see a little guy on his first day of school getting his first school lunch of many, many years. The other thing I want to address before I go to the next slide, though, is when I first addressed this with our school district, our operations manager brought up that we should probably talk with somebody in the work comp unit and see what we could do about ergonomics and how to train staff properly on moving these serving lines. And so they had somebody come out and do some measurements and testing, seeing how, you know, how much weight they're pushing, how much they'd be pulling on different things. And they actually put together some videos on us, and that they're sharing that I can use district-wide, and that they're also using it with some other districts that they've been working with on different ways to work on using the proper ergonomics. My staff are trained on those big carts. There's 2 of you on it. They're trained that you don't go and pull, that you have to walk with it if you're going to be pulling, and having some different ways there. We took off some of the extra weights, some shelves that we didn't need, or tray slides, because you don't need the tray slide for the kiddos this year because we're handing them the tray at the end. And so that was a big factor that we wanted to focus on, so that while we're having the staff work a little bit harder, a lot harder, I should say, we're also being very conscientious of what we're doing for them and keeping them safe. So that goes on, and we'll continue on with that, and we'll continue practicing those services and being safe with our staff. When we go to the next slide here, you know, we've learned to improvise. I look there and we still provide. And this photo happens to be one of my smallest schools. We have 98 students in this building, and it's just this teeny tiny little building. And we still took the serving line out of the kitchen. They found a little cubby area where we've got all the classrooms are within a real unique area. And you can see they brought a warmer again down there. You've got the ice packs and different things again to just go and show how we are serving the meals out and putting that together for our kiddos. And they've got, in this building, they have little circles placed in front of the line where they go, okay, you can go to the next color circle as a student advances through the serving line, so they keep them properly spaced. And again, they scan their badges and all that. And so I thought it's kind of unique to see that, okay, here's a small school, how we handle that compared to the other school, but we are treating them all the same. And that was also a very important factor for our district as we talked about this, that we wanted to make sure that we're being consistent across the board in the district with all the buildings, so that we don't have families coming back to us saying, but they're doing it this way in that building. Because sometimes that happens, and we want to say, no, we're doing it this way across the board, so our kids are all being protected in the same fashion. So improvising works. You can see that we portion up our PCs, and we've gotten to some different things there where it's, you know, again, a little bit more time involved, but we're not pumping or having the kids do any pumping of their PCs or their condiments. And at our high school levels, we have gone to actual regular portion packets and hand that out as they go through the serving lines. The next slide, I'm just showing a little quick view. It was a quick one I caught. We take the breakfast cart to the classroom, and it's really interesting because in our district, we've always had a morning milk break. It's tradition in the district. It was there before my time, and the kiddos have had morning milk. They didn't have breakfast before I started, and we implemented the breakfast program. And then as we started going with breakfast a few years back, we started a second chance breakfast. So it was after the bell. The kids would come in to the serving area after the bell and grab their breakfast and go down to the classroom and eat it. And at that time, they would also decide, did I want my morning milk or not? It was not part of that because it's not part of the federal funded portion. And we also offer a snack of the day just for kiddos that forgot to bring a snack or something. And so it'd be charged a la carte. Well, we moved hot breakfast out of the lunchroom. And again, we've taken it to the classroom, and we bag up breakfasts and have those already bagged up. So it's not the best photo there, but it's the kids come out of their classroom. We literally go right to their door and have established scheduled times that we go to their door. They come out and they are able to scan and say, I'll have the breakfast bag or just a milk, please, or whatever it might be. And we're able to charge that way. And it's interesting, our elementary numbers for breakfast have actually gone up. And I'm kind of hoping to see that continue to go up, because for like those free and reduced kiddos, it's easy to encourage all families that if you don't want to pay the 40 cents for the carton of milk, and we waive the fee for reduced kids, here's a chance to get a free breakfast and you don't have to worry about it, you know, so it's a way to save them some money too. So with that, that's kind of where we're at with that. On our next slide, I just want to talk a little bit about staffing again. And it was a really important piece again there with not only the safety that I talked about a few minutes ago, but how we want to make sure that we're providing PPE for our staff. One of the concerns in our district, in which a lot of districts I know have had, is do you have mandatory masks or not? And our district did take a survey of parents, and they, in the end, it was determined that we would strongly encourage wearing masks. Well, so we all know how that goes. You're going to have a mix of people wearing masks, but every staff person and every student were provided a personal care package prior to school or the first day of school. It contains a mask. It has to have our logo, of course, the BV in there. We all have face shields that are very nice for my staff to use. I see a lot of my kitchen staff are using that, and it's even interesting to see a lot of the teaching staff that have started to use it, because there you've got the clear face you can see and talk and be able to really see a real smile. Although we all have learned that you can see a smile behind those masks. And then they gave us all also the individual hand sanitizers that can be hooked onto our little badges or whatever it might be. And again, as I mentioned, we're protecting our POS systems, my staff that are there, with having those plexiglass barriers around them. Along with that, we're focusing on, we have a 3-question piece that before you can come to work each day, you should be asking yourself these 3 questions. 1, do I feel okay? Okay, if you don't, if you can answer, I want to say, or are you feeling sick, I guess, because we want to be able to answer, if you answer yes to anything, you have to consider staying home. The second one, are you having difficulty breathing? Do you have a fever? Are you coughing? Or anything like that. We go with the main symptoms. If you answer yes to that, you're asked to stay home. And then the third one is, have you knowingly been in contact with anyone that has been diagnosed with COVID, or have you been within 6 feet for more than 15 minutes with somebody that is awaiting test results? And so we ask that question of all our staff each day. We don't do temperature taking or anything like that. And actually all the kids coming into the school district are asked to think those 3 questions through. And if they answer yes to any of those, then they are asked to go home, or so, same with staff also. So, some of those things, I think it's common sense for us. We talk about it, we know it, but it's also a very important piece that with my staff, I've told them that, it's also a very important thing that we keep this private. We know about HIPAA rules and all that. And so we've had a number of staff we've had to be home for a couple of days while they're awaiting a negative test or something like that. And so we are tracking that and keeping that, where in my situation now, I'm doing more of those calls. My managers typically take a phone call, but if there's anything COVID related, they forward it on to me so I can keep tracking, and we keep it very quiet. So if we could go to the next slide, please. Man, our menus changed dramatically. I talked about 6 months ago where we were all at pre-COVID. And while we've all been so proud of so many things we've done over the last number of years and how we promote fresh fruits and vegetables and those salad bars and food bars and all the different variables that we've had to look back and sit back and go, now we have to go with limited choices. And that's heartbreaking for all of us that do menu planning and serve kids. And so those are some things that, okay, now we've had to go, what are some of the top favorites? We've got to say, so we can keep participation going. Let's also look at some things that if we get into a situation where we're going to be down staff, how are we going to reverse track and have some other options available? And so we're really trying to focus on that and have some backup for that coming up down the road. We used to let the kids grab what they wanted, but now we're putting that spork on their tray. We're putting that carton of milk on their tray. And actually, I'm one of the few, I believe, in my state that's putting the milk on the tray. My actual health inspector and I had a conversation, and he actually said that they highly recommended that we do that. And so we've decided we're going with total hands-free, keeping the kids from not touching anything at all. What we are running into, though, is some issues in the distribution line. And I think that was to be expected for a lot of us. We know there's a lot of backlog in distribution from what was already out in the pipeline before this all hit, but now trying to get some of the items that we're actually having menued coming up. And actually this week already, our truck came in today, but we've made 2 days worth of menu changes based on knowing what our outs were going to be and for what we're going to be receiving coming up. So those are some tough things to have to deal with, again, because once you publish a menu and then you have to turn around and flip things around, it's stressful on not only, you know, the one who has to plan that and the people who are buying the food, but a lot of families, they count on what they've already seen on the menu, and all of a sudden they go, oh, they're changing things again. And so that can also impact some of our participation. And so those are some concerns that we have, and wanting to make sure that we can try and work closer with our distributor on that. But I also understand the situation that they're in and the struggles that they're going through too. So I think the term that's been used a lot over the last 6 months is we all have to have a lot of grace with each other. And I think that's something really significant that, you know, I keep telling my staff, we got to have grace. We got to, you know, got to let it go. And with that, I have one more slide, I believe. And I just want to share a little bit about what that looks like. We're all in this together, and we are all learning from each other. One of the things I say, and it became a big thing in our office recently, is to be like an otter. Let it roll off of you. And actually, I'm not going to make that noise for you today, but if you want to Google it, you can hear what an otter does. And if somebody wants to be like an otter, we're walking around making those noises now. So you can about imagine we try to have fun with it. But, you know, we're going to make mistakes, and it's okay. We learn from our mistakes, and we'll fix them. And we have to have that grace and that factor to help each other out. And remember that we have others we can count on from across the state, across the country, that we can call and say, hey, what are you doing? Or how can you help me? Or, hey, I've got this great thing that happened and took place, where we can share those things. We have to have flexibility and adaptability. That has to be a regular part of our daily vocabulary. Change is happening by the hour sometimes, and we have to say, hey, can you move here? And just today, I know that over our lunch period, we had to have one person who was in one kitchen called and said, hey, I need you to move over to this building because so-and-so has to go home at this point in time. Flexibility and adaptability, and making sure we thank each other and those people that are helping us out with that. And then the best part coming up is we are going to find, you know, things that we're going to be able to do better, best practices. And there's going to be a silver lining in there already. For me, one of the silver linings, our new point of sale system with the barcoding. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. It's fast. We don't have issues with it. And so we already have a saving grace there. So, you know, we will survive. We will look for those silver linings. We'll find them. Even the teachers are finding different things, finding out that, you know what, by not mixing up the kids all together on the playground at recess time, we have less issues on the playground. And I think we will all see that in all of our programs in different ways. So look for the saving grace, look for the silver lining, and we're all in it together. Let's help each other out, and we will survive this. Thank you.
Thank you, Gay. I appreciate you so much joining us today. We know that it's such a busy time, so you giving us some of your time is just very much appreciated. And hopefully not too much will change in the hour and change that you're with us today. I do encourage you that if you have questions for Gay about what is going on in her district, what meal service looks like now, plans for the future, please enter those into the Q&A box, and we will answer those at the end of the webinar. But for now, it is my pleasure to turn it over to our next guest speaker. And we're going to shift a bit west in our geography, and we are going to hear from Frances Montoya, who's with us from Vaughn Next Century Learning Center. And Frances is going to kick us off by telling us a little bit about Vaughn. So Frances, I turn it over to you.
Thank you, Kelly, and thank you for having me. I wanted to start off by giving a little bit of Vaughn history on our first slide. our next slide and let you know we are a charter school here in Pacoima in the San Fernando Valley, which is in Southern California. And we were the first charter conversion in the US, and we have been a charter since 1993. Just to let everyone know, if you ever had the question, food service department runs the exact same at a charter as it does at a school district. I do come from school districts. I have been working for schools for the past 16 years. 12 of them have been in school districts, and the last 4 here at our wonderful charter. We have been a Provision 2 school since 1994, before Provision 2 was even identified as Provision 2, so universal feeding. We have 5 schools with 4 serving schools. So we serve out of 4 of the 5 schools. A little bit about pre-COVID, when we served breakfast, we have 2 options, a hot item or a cold item, and then a cereal option every day with 2 different fruit options and of course milk. Lunch, we always have 2 entree options with 3 fruit and 3 vegetable options and of course milk. And then we also serve snack to all of our after school programs. This year, we're really excited that we qualified for CEP. So that's going to help a lot with paperwork and just making sure our kiddos stay free on a daily basis. So for our next slide, I wanted to kind of give a little bit of a, you guys can take a look at what our menu look like for our fruit and vegetable, because we did offer 3 fruits and 3 vegetables, as I said. And I wanted to highlight a couple of items because we are really proud of what we were serving before COVID. Something like a wedge salad, like you would order in a restaurant. We cut it the same way, portioned it correctly, added some diced tomatoes and the drizzle of ranch, and they loved it. We paired it with pizza, and it was aces all around. And for those students that, you know, have never seen a wedge salad, look at that. They get it at school. We have enough staff. We have a staff of 30 at the school sites, our dedicated staff members here at Vaughn, their parents, their community members, their grandparents, and they are more than willing to cut anything up, make anything for the students. That's where their heart is. So we have lots when in season, diced melons and pineapple to offer the students, as well as some items that our students are most familiar with. We have a big Latino community, and we make a pico de gallo, which is a medley of tomatoes, onions, and cilantro. We dice that up into a salad type, and then we can create different recipes with it. We've put cauliflower ceviche on the menu, where we just add cauliflower crumbles to it, and it's a hit. We serve it with chips on the menu for their grain that day. They love it. We use cactus, what we call nopale here. We make a nopale salad. We just add the cactus to the pico de gallo, and there you go. The kids love it. During the colder months, we get the can of black beans. We heat it up. We add the pico de gallo to it, and it's like a soup. Also with lentils, we cook them fresh lentils, and we add the pico de gallo to it, and they love it. These are things that I probably would not have put on the menu before, but just with the staff being willing to, you know, do all of these things, I am so grateful that we have been. So I wanted to highlight this, as well as one more thing on our fruit and vegetable menu is we cut lemon wedges and get the little bag of tahini, and we'll pair it with sliced radishes, cucumbers, and jicama, and the kids love it. So, you know, just being able to do that has been a wonderful thing here. And then I'll let you know how it floats over to the way we serve now. So that was just a little highlight of our menu. And on our next slide is just a couple of things that we did to just build community, making a connection with the parents. We attended open houses. On the picture to the left, you can see the cauliflower ceviche with the chips, the diced melons, a honeydew pineapple, watermelon, and then of course a picture of that same menu I showed you. We blew it up because sometimes parents don't, the kids come home and they'll say, oh, there was nothing, on the menu, or we didn't have, many things. But this was just so that the parents can visually see what the students' options were. And the parents were very happy. So it is a good highlight. And then on our next slide, we have National School Lunch Week. That was the first time here at Vaughn we participated. We did themed days. Our founder, Dr. Yvonne Chan, is from China, and she highlights China all the time here at our schools. You can definitely see the presence. We take exchange students once a week. I'm sorry, not once a week, but yearly, where us staff host them for a week, and vice versa. Our students go to China and experience their education there. So we highlighted it on one of our days for National School Lunch Week, and the kids were really excited. We have another outreach that we do with the parents on our next slide is thankful to our Family and Community Center coordinator, Alma Nava. She had invited us to participate in parent workshops where parents come, and we were able to teach them how to pickle vegetables, make jam and hummus. They absolutely loved it. Of course, we've cut that program for COVID, but hope to get back to it one day. And on our next slide is, those were all the wonderful things we were able to do before COVID, but now March 13th came just as Gay had on her district, and we were told we had a call to serve the community. So March 13th was a Friday. I'm sure everyone on this call probably had the same conversation with their bosses and leaders, and by Monday, we mobilized. We prepared, and we were ready to serve the families. And don't get me wrong, it's not like Friday, we got it together by 3 or 4 o'clock. We came in Saturday and planned it all, and we had it ready to go. So I'm very grateful to the staff and the managers that were able to participate. So how did we plan? On the next slide, these are just some of the things that I hit for March to June. This is what we did. We had 4 campuses with full freezers. We utilized what we had on hand. We bagged items that weren't pre-packed. We continued to order student favorites so that way our participation would continue to stay steady. I mean, we lost a lot. We distributed by curbside and walk-ups. We served daily hot meal and a breakfast for the next day. We maintained 6-foot distancing by 6-foot tables between us and the parents as they were walking up or driving up. So we did take precautions there. And then, well, before all of that, we had to have a conversation with our staff. And I know us food service directors, that could have been a hard conversation, and I wanted to touch on it because you have to, sometimes we're working and we don't realize how essential we are, or if we are essential. And so having to let, the crew of 30 know that, yes, everybody was going to be working from home except for us and, custodial support staff, and that we needed to be in contact with the community, and we needed to continue to serve those that are hungry. And, that was a tough conversation because, people get anxiety, they're anxious, they're scared. So having to balance the importance of what we do as well as, make sure everybody's feeling okay is a little hard, but we got through it together, and we put together a safety plan of cleaning, 6-foot distancing, and made sure that we communicated with each other. We observe something, we talk about it, we talk about why. So that's how we started our food service plan in the beginning. Next slide will show a little bit more on the safety, because that's very important, keeping the staff safe so that they feel safe enough to come, right? And that, you know, us as food service management as well as a school, that we're taking care of our employees. Sanitation, training them the difference between sanitizer and disinfectant. I mean, we all know that now. Did we know that before? I mean, yes. Uh, making sure we had a schedule for high touch areas, so that way it ensures that we maintain disinfecting and sanitizing. Breaking the staff up into teams. That's really key. I did that for the new school year. I was not doing that before then, but it's very effective. And then one of our biggest fears, having a staff member test positive. That happened to us. It happened to us on the last day of our school year in transition to summer. And I mean, just as our one cafeteria where we had the staff member test positive, as they were leaving and saying goodbye, and half the staff was not going to come back for the summer and the other staff was, and we're, you know, giving each other well wishes, I get the call in the parking lot as I'm leaving and call HR. Wait, everybody, you know, we need to have a small meeting, letting them know, okay, you know, we've been exposed. You need to quarantine, get tested. We reacted. Luckily, we had all of our staff there. The staff, you know, that's, you know, we're here to make sure that everybody's safe. We're here to put plans in place, and feeling a little bit, you know, sad that this has happened, and of course everyone's emotional and worried, but trying to, you know, let them know to get tested. And what the outcome was is we didn't have an outbreak. Guess what? It's because we had plans. It's because we did the right thing. We wore a face mask every single day. We wear and constantly change out gloves. We wash our hands always, and we maintain that high touch area regime of every 30 minutes. Those are the reasons why we didn't have the outbreak. And kudos to our mainland staff, because that's the school that had the positive test. No outbreak, no other person tested positive, and that is because that they followed those policies and protocols. So that was great in a bad situation. Next slide. Our community response to mobilizing, lines were around the corner the first day, very busy. We had such a gratitude coming from the community, the students, the staff, signs. Our community is hungry, and we are a hub for food. Vaughn is a safe haven for this community, and we were so happy to be able to run through SSO and be able to feed the community, students, staff. We had tons of staff volunteer, and we were able to still serve and maintain 75% of our ADP. So talk about we're all in this together. That was the sure sign. And if anybody had doubts about why we're essential, they didn't anymore. Next slide. Okay, and then transitioning from summer, June and July, which would be summer, we had half the staff. We changed the time of distribution to, instead of daily, we went from to serve for once a week, curbside and walk up. Our numbers started declining. That was definitely something that we were a little concerned about. Not just a little, I was a lot concerned about that. We marketed, we had signage, phone blasts, flyers, social media, but it wasn't until we started holding signs at the corner did we get those numbers back. I gotta tell you, my manager, Erica Lascano, one of our subs, Danny Orozco, I'm gonna give a lot of shout outs today. They were holding signs, and people just came, and it was awesome. And we were able to reach out to all of those people and children that didn't have meals for that week, or you never know what people are going through. So we're able to get to a lot more in the community and maintain 70% overall. And the next slide. So back to school, it came so fast for us. And we started August 5th. So here I am in the beginning of July thinking, okay, this is summer. And then I'm like, no, it's not. We're starting school August 5th. Are we going to distance learn? Are we not? Nothing was set in place. Nobody knew. Nobody knew. And so we had many different plans out on the table, and they were evolving weekly. If you keep up with your state updates, or you have a community call that you're a part of, these webinars here. So there was a lot of plans out there. We didn't know which one we were going to have to go with. We did know SSO ran through August 31st, but we're starting school August 5th. So, we had to do something. We were thinking, do we need a POS? It's going to be students only. We've been clicking, we're CEP. We don't need to identify students. Who's going to want to return? I didn't know. Half my staff I hadn't talked to, or I wasn't talking to. They were on summer break. What about employees with pre-existing conditions or age? It's mainly our seniors, because we had our seniors home from March to June, and they were allowed to stay home. It was mandatory. Well, the governor said 65 and older, you're home, which was great, because although we want to be with them every day, but we love them so much, we want them to stay safe at home. They were coming back. So how do we protect them? What about participation? I'm just kind of letting you know all the things that were going through my head, and I know that are going through everyone's here. Are we going to have to reduce staff? What about the community? We're not going to be able to feed them anymore. What are they going to do? So serving at SLP and SBP was what I had to plan for. And next slide. So it was very overwhelming. So reaching out for help, I think, is the key. The more, the better. I have used Lunch Assist as a consultant through the past 2 years. We started off with an audit when I first got to Vaughn, and they have been great. During COVID, they were our #1 resource. And when I tell you #1, I mean, they were, for me, the only resource that I had. They kept us up with waiver guidance, templates, signage, sample policies. If you needed to talk to Jen and her team one-on-one, they were there. You set up a chat, no problem. She is a dietitian, so menu planning, audit support, they do training, they do everything. They set up also community calls with the Center of Eco-Literacy for food service directors to connect and get updated information. I have to tell you, that was just my #1 resource, and I wanted to share this with you because as us directors, I know there are some projects that we work on that we just need a little extra help. This is the type of resource that is good to go for if you haven't already. So reaching out to Jen, help me organize. She's on my team. Okay, I still need a plan. What's next? Outreach. So thinking of the importance of participation, because all I could think about was we need to get participation. That was just running through my head. And you have to start off with the boss, right? Our CEO would be the equivalent to a superintendent at a school district. He's always been very supportive and trusting of my decisions here at Vaughn with the food service department. So I'm really grateful to have him, and him, having full support and letting him know the importance of the participation for the department was key. The next set I kind of went to as far as stakeholders was our site directors, which would be the equivalent of principals. And I'm emphasizing on this one because I really wanted to have a conversation with each principal and let them know why participation is our key for the new way of serving to our students, because this is how we sustain our program. were funded by participation. They got it right away. They knew it. They had ideas flowing. They were on my team. They were going to do whatever it took to help support food service program. And that I was so grateful. So now here I am revitalized. I'm like, okay, everything's starting to look good, right? You know, they're on my team and I couldn't have a better team so far. I went to the directors of instruction. Boom, they were on board. I'm like, oh my God, you know, we always talk about Vaughn family, and it's true. The connections we make here are great. So they're on my team. They added me to the professional development for the teachers for the new year. I was able to talk directly to the teachers via Zoom all at once, stress the importance, you know, come up, actually, you know, throw out some ideas of encouragement for them to let the parents and the students know how important it is to participate. Our staff was, we had our beginning meeting, checking in on their mental health, giving them ideas, checking in to see how they're feeling. Wonderful, everybody on board. Parents were next. So this is what we did with parents, because they're our key, right? We need them to come. Next slide. Sorry. So our outreach, we did a parent survey. I have a couple of examples here. When I think survey, I think, we're here in Southern California, I think Disneyland. Love Disneyland. I walk in, now there's people with tablets and and a stylus, and they want to ask me some questions. And I'm like, okay, avoid. But if you keep the questions simple, guess what? It's not too bad. So 5 questions, 2 weeks to complete, send it out over email, because everybody has email now because of pandemic, right? So short and simple, let's talk about what day and what time you want us to serve. So that was our first thing. Next was our parent forums. We conducted 4 parent forums. So now I needed to look at them and say, we need to do this for the community. We need to do this for Vaughn Food Service Program, and to make sure that we're helping you out by giving you food and keeping your students fed throughout the day. We gave them all the information on what the survey outcomes were. We let them know how important participation was. We were building community by you help us and we help you. You know, that was a great connection. I also invited Gold Star Foods, our main distributor for frozen and dry and refrigerated foods. I invited our rep, Shelly Reel, to speak about not only their safety precautions, but how important, what a key and a tie-in that is, that the food isn't just here at Vaughn, it comes from somewhere. We need to order it. We need lead times. You know, they're suffering too. You know, we need to make commitments. And that was very important to do. And she was able to speak. We had 2 English sessions, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, or actually in the evening, and as well as Spanish. And we were able to do it, and we had great questions. We had a ton of parents attend. It was really, really nice to see. So that's an avenue to utilize. Next was accounting for every student. I'm not going to read all of this, but I did map out my plan, because I needed to identify each student. We don't have a POS. We were using clickers. So now I need to, right? School leaders were saying, okay, let us know who doesn't come pick up. We can encourage over parent chats and student attendance and who picked up their meals today. So I need to get information to those schools so that they can help me get more participation. We needed a POS. We didn't have one, but our software company does. So we activated that. They were able to help us create lists for a barcode system. And barcodes are great. I agree with you, Gay. We're creating lists by family utilizing the address. With CEP, you know, you have to collect all that data. So I had already extended eligibility. I knew all these addresses. I said we could do it this way. And we're creating that now. I'm going to be honest, it's still a process. We have all of our system in play. We're going to start all of these tablets and barcodes next week. For now, we're using enrollment rosters, which means, what is your name? And we're trying to find it as fast as we can. It is a bit time consuming, but it keeps us accountable, and that's what we want to stay. We want to stay accountable, and we want to let the parents know that this means something. We reached out to you to help us to get this participation. It does mean something. So that was my ideas for accounting for every student. And then we could go to meal distribution. Based on the parent survey, both English and Spanish picked Mondays. Great. Our Spanish speakers, the results was afternoons. It was a tie for morning to afternoons. We picked more afternoons because it kind of goes into the evening, which our English results came in that they wanted. So we're serving from 11 to 1 and 3 to 5. And I'll be honest, the first day we kind of served all day, but that was okay. Our employees were ready to do it. We serve from 2 campuses. We're lucky enough to have all 5 campuses within a 1 mile radius. So we just picked 2 ends. So we have a lot of walk-ups. So that's really convenient for those that are on one side because they had a lot of things to carry. And then this is a picture of our fruit stand, which I'll talk a little bit more about, but this is one of our employees, Sergio, shopping for the family as they're at the drive-up. And then our next slide, sorry. Our marketing, we've been using social media, Facebook, Instagram for menus. We have not put out a monthly menu, but we're giving it to them 1 week at a time. And then we're also mentioning it to them at the line. Do you have Facebook? Do you have Instagram? This is how you can get the information. We also send phone blasts, which include a call, an email, and a text. So we're able to put flyers out that way. And then we have banners all around the neighborhood letting them know of the time and day. So at first we were serving summer style, which was the 5 days on 1 day. It was all frozen for lunch and fresh or dry for breakfast. They had 5 days of fresh fruit, could be apples or oranges or anything like that. And then 5 days of pre-packed vegetables like celery sticks, carrot sticks, etc. But then we didn't feel like we were getting the numbers, although I come to find we actually were getting some good numbers, but we decided to change up because we needed to gain participation and we couldn't kind of get behind so early in the year. So our next slide is going to show our reinvented menu. We're here in Southern California, so I thought of In-N-Out, a burger stand over here, and they had combos and they have a tablet, they take your order. So we have combo number 1 now, which includes a hot lunch. The next day you get a fresh entree, like a sandwich or salad, and then you get 3 frozen entrees for the rest of the week. Or you could choose combo number 2, which is all frozen. Your choice. You can do that also with breakfast and with fruit and vegetables. So if you want just apples or oranges, you can pick that too, or you could pick the fresh cut watermelon, cantaloupe, and pineapple like you saw on the previous slide. This has made a great impact on our participation. We're also thinking of creative ways to get students to participate. Barbecues. It's a little hot in Southern California right now. Nobody wants to be outside. We're doing it, but I will not pull a barbecue out right now. But we are thinking of, if the hot item's a hot dog, why not barbecue it? It feels good. It smells good. It's enticing. theme days we're thinking. Maybe if the Dodger game, Los Angeles Dodgers are playing, that's in our area. We're all gonna wear our Dodger gear and just have fun with it. Maybe even freeze some, do a Hawaiian day and freeze some slices of pineapple and give those out to the kids. And then raffles and incentives. Our school is great to donate some lanyards and t-shirts as a raffle item for the kiddos. So those are our ideas. Now we have some grade updates. Our grade updates are the waiver extensions, SSO till the end of December. Like, can't get any better. That means we're going to feed the community again. Our participation's going to increase, and our staff is going to feel more secure because our participation numbers are up. But what I do want to emphasize at the end of this is, what about the plan? All of that organizing, all of that buy-in, all of the connections we made with the parents, teachers, leaders. I don't want to have that piece kind of, go away because now we don't need to identify anymore. Now it's not just about student population. I still want to get student population. I still want to have student participation. So we're still going to move forward with encouraging students to come, parents to come, giving the incentives. We are still going to have the staff involved in the encouragements, because guess what? They're still our students. We still want to feed them. And although we can guess that SSO is going to extend till the end of the year, we can't guarantee it always. Look at this month gap. And after I've asked our parents and reached out to them for help or for participation, and they've answered that call, I'm not going to let it go to waste. It's still going to remain a forefront of our plan. So I appreciate them, and I'm going to keep pushing forward on that. All in all, it's going to increase our participation. So we've let the great news go out. We started feeding yesterday for the community. So now all the little ones that aren't enrolled in school yet get the meals and get the fresh fruit and vegetables, and they're excited. So we just hope to feed as many hungry kids as possible. That's the goal. That's the goal. So if this at all helps anybody, I just want to say thank you. This is our mainline crew and our D3 crew, and we are all here together. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Frances, for sharing. And I do want to say just our thoughts with the state of California right now as y'all deal with a number of emergencies upon emergencies. So sending all of our best to the West Coast. But a big thank you to Frances, to Gay, for sharing your plans for meal service with us. I know that personally, I need to remember to have a snack before these webinars. Y'all are just serving such amazing and delicious looking food to your students and to your communities. Just kudos to you in keeping your programs at such a high quality despite the numerous challenges that you all are facing. So in our last few minutes together, I do want to take a look at our Q&A box. So if you still have questions, please type them in. I know that some of them have been answered already via text in those boxes, but if you have them, send them over. So let's see what we have here. Okay, I'm going to ask a question that I do know depends a little bit on geography, but this question relates to farm to school. And either Gay or Frances, can you speak to any farm to school activities that you have been able to continue?
I can bring something up there. We do have a local small farmer who I've worked with in the past, and I'm awaiting for her to bring me some of her fresh produce in. We talked about it earlier in the spring, and I'm expecting some produce to start coming in next week already. And so just to be able to still offer some of that and have that really neat homegrown fresh flavor right there. And to help them out in the community also at the same time. So I think it's still very important that when we have those opportunities, we do it.
Absolutely. Frances, do you want to add something?
We have not been able to continue any of our previous practices, but definitely going forward, we're going to need to focus in because our farmers do need all the help that they could get, and we need to support them.
Absolutely. Thank you. There is a question about navigating allergies and religious preferences when it comes to menus. Either Frances or Gay, do you want to chime in on how you handle what I'll broadly call special menus?
I tried typing some of that in, and I don't think I got it through, but we still work with our special meal accommodations. We have a list on our serving line like we always do. We have the kiddos' pictures until we get to know who they are. And for right now, we do have those kids coming through the beginning of the serving line until my staff get to know who they are. And actually, we are doing some remote meals for our distance learners. And when we're told about a special meal accommodation and have that on file, we also accommodate that. And so we are doing the once a week pickup, just like what Frances was sharing with our distance learners. We have about 400 distance learners in our district, and we're able to serve about 71 of them right now is where it's at.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, we have actually our special diets aren't as big. Where I've been at a different district where we had a lot of meal accommodations to provide for. Ours has a lot to do with milk, lactose. You know, we just provide the milk as they need it, and we work one-on-one with the parents that have special diets, and we are willing to serve those students at a different time and day if they can't get through the line. We're actually working with all parents if they can't get out there on Mondays, but with our special diets, just so that way we can focus in on getting them their specific meal, we choose a different time to serve them, and the parents do appreciate that.
Great, thank you. Frances, I'm going to keep you online there. And this question is for you. There's some interest in hearing more about your fresh fruit stand that you showed us in that photo and how that works. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Absolutely. It's one of our pride and joys. We determined how much of a cut of watermelon or melon or anything would serve you for 5 days. So the melon option is a 5-day serving, and you can choose that, or you can choose, you know, apples or anything else, that stone fruit that we might have available. What we did is we just cut out the flesh, we measured it and determined what it took in regards to yield, and that's how we cut it. We do our best the best we can to keep it uniform. We wrap it up in plastic and we have it out there on our fruit stand, of course changing continuously, keep it cool.
Awesome, thank you so much. And that really did look absolutely delicious.
Thank you.
Gay, I'm going to ask you this question since you have your students, or at least a majority of them, back in school. This question is in regards to water service, which I know has been, I guess what I'll call a hot topic as we came into this new school year. How are you handling that in your schools?
Okay, so with that, along with a PPE package that all students and staff were given, all students were also given their own water bottles for the year. And what they're doing there is the water fountains are shut down, but we do have the water stations that they can go to. And each of our classrooms, we're blessed, they all have water or sinks in the bathroom, or not in the bathrooms, in the classrooms. And so they actually have sinks and access to that. And so they have either the water fountain where they can go to the dispenser or within their classroom. So they have access to water.
Great, thank you. Frances, I think a factor for you all right now with 100% remote learning. Have you gotten that far in your planning for the future? And if you haven't, of course, totally understandable.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first part of your question.
Sure, it's in regards to plans for providing water to students
Oh,
once they're back at school.
we haven't gotten that far in our plan. We do have hydration stations at every single school where they can bring their own bottle and fill up at any of those stations. So we do have that. We probably will install more, but then water in the classroom would be available to them as well.
Great, thank you. We're at time, and I'm going to sneak in 2 questions more for those who are still able to join us. And one of the questions is in regards to any strategies or plans that either of you have right now in regards to leftover food. Do you have a waste management or donation strategy that you're using?
We're getting meal counts in our lower levels. In our upper levels, it's always, you roll the dice each day to determine how much you're going to make. And we find ways to still repurpose it or be able to use it in another factor, turning chicken into a chicken salad and utilizing it that type of way. So we're very conscientious. We always have been, and it's been a focus of ours to really watch plate waste and food waste. So.
Absolutely. And a good reminder of what you can do kind of on the front end to limit that waste to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so ordering is key, not overcooking. Luckily, since introducing hot food, it's sold out every single time we've served it. And of course, the melons, we can't cut enough for the day. So we've been running out. I'm sure we will start running into some of that when melons are not available and we choose different fruits. But when that time comes, we are going to think of a creative way to deal with it. And we may have a certain percentage back in the classroom soon anyway. So, yeah.
Great. Well, thank you both so much. In the interest of everyone's time, I am going to wrap us up. I will say that if you have any final questions, go ahead and enter those into the chat box. And we always do our best to round up any answers thereafter, and we can get those to you. But again, just another huge thank you to Gay, to Frances, for Carolyn for kickstarting us with the waiver info. Can't say it enough. It's such a busy time. So we're just so extra appreciative of you sharing your time with us today. I know I learned some things. So I hope everyone that joined us today did as well. As I said at the start of the webinar, you all will receive a copy of the slide deck as well as the webinar recording. So be on the lookout for that in your inbox likely tomorrow. And you have our information as well. So if you have follow-up questions, please reach out to us. Again, we are here to help you. So wishing everyone well as we continue to navigate this time and hope to see you on another webinar in the future. Thank you all.
Thank you.